Beanie friends, today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to create this brim on my knitting machine and connecting it to this crocheted top of this beanie. Now I will be doing a full tutorial so that you can create this beanie from bottom to top, beginning to end, without any difficulty at all. But I also will give you a heads up when we're done with just the brim portion of this tutorial. So if you are just interested in knowing how to add a knitting machine brim to your beanie, you can do that. If you want the full pattern, it is also here, but you can take this and adapt it to whatever you choose. So once you know how to do this basic knit brim here on the bottom, you can take that and connect it to any other pattern beanie that you have in your possession that would have a standard crocheted brim, and just add the crocheted portion on top. Hopefully saving you some time, adding a slightly different look to your project, and just overall having a good technique to have in your back pocket so that you can make some wonderful creations of your own. So without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. All right, so let's get started. The things that you're gonna need for the tutorial today are going to be the yarn that you want for your brim. Today I am using Softly Baby from Ice Yarn. And this is in the color light beige, I believe. I will link it down in the description box below if you are interested to check this out for yourself. I'm also using Mystique from Ice Yarn. I can't remember what the color of this one is. I'm sure it was just like blue, beige, cream, brown, something like that. They never come up with fun names. They're just basically the colors that are in there. But I will be using this for the top crocheted portion of my hat. Mystique. I will leave a link for that down in the description box below if you're interested. I'm going to be using a Pom Pom and a Pom Pom button. Found these from another maker who creates these up on Etsy. You're going to need a 6mm crochet hook. That is the hook that I'm using today if you're using the same yarn as me. A needle, a darning needle, needle threaders if you need them, a scissors, all of that good stuff. So what we're going to start with here, because we are using waste yarn for our ribbing, you don't have to use waste yarn strictly. There is a way to do it without waste yarn, but if you do it without the waste yarn, you lose that stretchiness in the band, which you really want to keep. At least I do. So we are going to be using waste yarn today. So I zeroed out my counter here, and I am going to cast on as normal, and then I'm going to do, I usually do I think 7 rows of my waste yarn. If you're unfamiliar with casting on, you hook it around the first needle that you're planning on using as your working needle, and then you go in front and behind each needle all the way around. I do have a tutorial that I will link up in the cards that goes more in depth on this. If you want to check that out or just need a refresher, it is there for you. But I am just gonna cruise through this part of the process for the moment. So I actually also use, oh, where did it go? I just had it, of course. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Found it. Of course, it always falls on the ground. I also use these little tension threaders or tension guides that Savlabot creates, and she sells them on her Etsy store. This is a great little tool if you have an Addi knitting machine. Now they are clear. They are clear acrylic. You can see that. I just keep the paper on because, as you can tell, I drop them on the floor frequently because I'm just clumsy like that. So I usually just keep the paper on until it starts to peel because it's easier for me to see when I drop it on the ground. All right. So since I'm using a tensioner here, I put the yarn through the top little hole in the carriage, and I'm going to put this on the tight tension setting. That generally is a tension setting that works best. Usually you only need the bigger ones if you want something to be really, really loose in your tension, or if you're using an exceptionally thick yarn, but I usually try not to put anything too thick through my machine. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and crank through my first 5 to 10 rows. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop here because I have 7 rows of waste yarn, and that is plenty for me. So I am going to trim my working yarn, open my carriage here, and drop my string right in the middle. Then I'm gonna grab the thread that I want, or the yarn that I want to be used for my brim, which is this light beige color here of the Softly Baby. So I'm going to go ahead, find my end of this, and drop that right in there. You want it to be coming, when you're doing a color change, always make sure that your needle that you cut off, or the thread that you cut off, and the new yarn is coming in between the same needles there. I'm going to tuck that in, put it through my threader, clear my counter, and now I'm going to do 30 rows total of my working brim color that I want. And then we will cast off with some waste yarn, and then we will keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and crank out my 30 rows and see you when I'm all done. Here I am back again. I have my 30 rows here. So I'm going to cut my, my apologies for that. Okay. I'm going to cut my working yarn here. And I'm going to do just like I did before, dropping it in the middle around the last needle. Grabbing my waste yarn, putting that through, and then I'm going to do another 7 rows with my waste yarn, and then we will get this off the machine. All right, there is my 7th row. Cut my working yarn, drop it in the middle, and then just crank and keep cranking until my work falls off of my machine. Just like that. So here we have our brim. I'm gonna give that a little stretch here, get it looking the right way. And then I'm gonna move this machine here, and I will show you what to do with this. All right. So we have our little tube of 30 rows here, and we have our working yarn that we're going to be jumping into here in a second. Go ahead and fold this in on itself so that both sides with your waste yarn are on the same end, and you get this nice folded brim right here. Then locate your tails. And we are right away going to be switching to our working color and using our working color to cast off our waste yarn and to pick up these stitches. Now, if you're familiar with using waste yarn, what you're looking for is, you can see the 2 different colors there. When we go with our crochet hook, we're going to be picking up, just like that, the color that we want all the way around. So there will be the color of the waste yarn, and then the stitches that you want to pick up are these ones right here, just on the other side of that waste yarn. But we'll get there. So what we're going to start doing is I'm going to look for one of my tails here of my brim color. Now, if you get a little lost in here on the ends, the best way that I can describe it is just always to look for the stitches in the ends that your contrasting color waste yarn is pulling through. And as long as you make sure that you pick up all of those stitches, you'll get them all and you'll be good. So I'm going to put, you can see that I have waste yarn coming through this stitch right here. So I'm going to pick that one up first. Then I'm going to look over on the other side. And the one from this side that I'm looking for is right here, the one that the tail is coming out of, that waste yarn color tail. I'm going to go just like that. I'm going to grab my tail from my brim color. I'm going to pull it through both those stitches. And then the way that I like to join it is I like to hook it over and pull that yarn all the way through, just like I was finishing up a crochet project. I'm going to grab my working yarn here. That'll twist it up in my working yarn tail. There we go. I'm going to grab my working yarn here. Even though I just pulled this all the way through that working stitch, I'm going to poke my hook back through it, pick up my working yarn, pull it through so I have a little loop on there, and then I'm going to grab my tail from my brim color and I'm just going to pull on that and tighten that down. That turns into a little knot right there. And my new yarn color join is nice and snug. Now, everybody does their color joins slightly differently. That's just the way that I prefer to do it. You can join your color any way you want to. You can start with a standing stitch, you can do a slip stitch to join, and then work from there. You can do it how you want. That's just how I prefer to do it. So, there you go. All right, now I'm gonna look for my next stitch on this side that has working yarn coming through it, which is right here. I'm gonna poke my hook through there. Then I'm looking for my next stitch on the opposite side that has working yarn coming through it. Which, oh, don't get my yarns crossed here, get that tucked underneath there. And the next one that I have on the opposite side that has working yarn going through it is this one right here. So I'm going to pick that one up, yarn over with my working yarn, pull through both those stitches, yarn over again, pull through both loops to complete a single crochet. And then you're going to do single crochet to sew these two ends together all the way around for your brim. So always look for the next stitch on the outside first, and then the next stitch on the inside, yarn over, pull through both those stitches, yarn over, pull through two loops. Stitch on the outside, stitch on the inside, yarn over, pull through those stitches, yarn over, pull through two loops. Stitch of yarn on the outside, stitch of yarn on the inside, yarn over, pull through both stitches, yarn over, pull through two loops. And you're going to keep doing that all the way around, and I will meet you here at the end. Alright, so I have single crocheted all the way around. I just have a few more stitches here at the very end, so I figured I would show you what that looks like. You're going to keep doing that same pattern of outside of the hat to the inside of the hat, and then going through until you get to your very last stitch. Now, since we just used a slip stitch to join right here, I actually, or not a slip stitch, but we tied off our yarn and then just pulled it through and started here. I actually do one last single crochet into those two stitches that you have already gotten your working yarn through. So when you get to the end, it should look like that. And then find your very first single crochet that you did, yarn over, pull through all of it to do a slip stitch to join. And I always snug my joining slip stitches down a little bit there. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove my waste yarn. And then we will be ready to start crocheting the rest of our hat. All right, so we have all of our waste yarn removed. You should have 2 tails left of your brim yarn, which I just tie into a double overhand knot to secure, and for those tails to be woven in later. And then you have your tail from your working yarn. I just pull those through so they're out of the way a little bit. And here we are, ready to crochet our hat. Now, as you can see, because I used a tight tension on this, this band is pretty narrow. The Addi 46, a lot of people don't like it for adult size hats because they feel like this is too small of a tube. I know for me, having a large head, it does border on being too small for me, but you can see that just a little bit of stretch gives you quite a bit more real estate there. And I find that on average, the Addi with its 46 needles does a fine job of getting a small to medium, even medium largish size head. Now, if you're a large or extra large head like I tend to be, you definitely need to loosen up your tension at least, or bump up to a Sentro 48 needle, which I am itching to try, but I do not currently have one. But I've heard a lot of people who have a larger head size swear by them and say that they prefer that for making their hats at least, because they get that extra 2 stitches of width for their hats. That's neither here nor there, but I just wanted to mention that because I am going to be using a 5-weight bulky yarn for the crocheted portion of my hat. This is a 4-weight worsted yarn that I used for my brim. So as we go, this brim is naturally going to be smaller than the rest of the hat. The hat's going to go out like this slightly, but that is a-okay because when you put the hat on, this will stretch slightly and it will actually look correct. So because I think that I always aim to make my hats a medium size in general, 46 stitches all the way around isn't a ton of stitches, so I actually do an increase around on my first row, just every 4 stitches, and you won't be able to see it once the hat's completed, and it just gives a little bit more room so that your stitches and your crocheted portion on the top of the person's head don't look stretched out at all. They still look nice and close together and give a really good effect. So, whew, that was a lot of explanation. So to start our hat, the rest of our hat, I'm going to chain 3. And then now I'm actually going to turn my work. Even though I'm working it around, I still prefer, at least with this pattern, to do like I would if I was crocheting it in a flat situation. So I just turn my work. It really isn't that irritating to me to have this be working on the inside of my hat, going that direction. If it does really bother you, you can just flip the brim inside out. It's super easy. But let's get started here. So I did my chain 3, look for your next stitch and just do a double crochet. And one more. And one more. Now if you do not know how to crochet, I do not have any basics tutorials up just yet. I'm planning on doing that soon. But there are plenty of basics on how to crochet tutorials on YouTube. I'm sure you can find them. So this first chain 3 functions as a double crochet. So we technically have 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet, and then I'm going to do an increase, which is just 2 double crochet stitches into the same stitch. And then I'm going to do 4 more double crochet. And then I'm going to do another increase, which is 2 in the same stitch. And then I'm going to keep following that pattern all the way around until I get to the start. So 4 double crochet and then an increase, 4 double crochet and an increase, and then I'll meet you back at the start of your round. So we're now nearing the end of our row of double crochet, and you're not going to get a perfect increase or decrease with doing it every 4 stitches, which to me is fine because you don't really see it and it doesn't really mess with the integrity of the hat as you go forward, and even as you do decreasing, I think it still works out just fine. So my last increase was here, and then I have 4 stitches. I'm going to do one more increase here. And then one more double crochet because this chain 3 here is going into the next stitch. So we are going to find the top chain of our chain 3, which might look a little funny because I turned my work and it might look a little loopy. If you can't find it, just look for the top of this double crochet stitch and go back one and then poke it through there. And you don't want to just poke it through this big gap space here because then you'll have a big hole. So look for the actual stitch, poke it through the stitch, yarn over, and slip stitch to join. And then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to turn my work again. So this is what it should look like. And now we're going to start doing our back post double crochet all the way around. And that's how our repeat's going to go. So you're not going to do it with this chain 3 in the bottom row, previous row. You're going to look for the next double crochet stitch here. And instead of going into the top of the stitch, you're going to put your hook around the stitch, coming in from the back. Yarn over first. Put your hook around the stitch from the back. So it's going to look like that. Grab your yarn on the back side. Pull it up so you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're not going to do any increasing or decreasing on this next row. We're just going to do a bunch of back post double crochet. So this one is an increased stitch. So you can see that there's 2 stitches here into the same stitch down here. That's just fine. I'm going to treat them like 2 separate stitches. So go around the post of the first one. Hook your yarn, pull it up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then do that again, yarn over, back post double crochet through that second stitch. Hook your yarn, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's what's going to give us our nice ridges effect all the way up the hat. So go ahead and just keep doing those back post double crochets until you get to the end of your round, and I will meet you there. Alright, so we are right at the end of our second row of double crochet stitches here. I have one more double crochet stitch to go around, so I'm going to do my last back post double crochet. Then I'm going to find that 3rd chain on the top here, and I'm going to slip stitch to join, snug that down a bit. So I'm going to chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to turn my work again, working towards the inside. And now what you're going to do, this is just like my 1 hour beanie. What you're going to do is you're just going to do a double crochet in every stitch all the way around, and then you're going to keep repeating that pattern. So this is going to be your row of just straight double crochet stitches into the back, or into the top, excuse me, of each stitch around. And then when you get to the end of this row, you do your slip stitch to join in your chain 3 and you turn your work. What you're going to do is you're going to do another row of back post double crochet all the way around the hat. And you're going to keep following that same repeat pattern in your rows of standard double crochet stitches and back post double crochet stitches all the way up the hat until you have worked a total of 13 rows, including that very first row of single crochet that we did when we still had our waist yarn attached and we were still getting our brim put together. So that is how far you are going to want to go with your rows, and then we're going to start our decreases. And I'll show you how to do those decreases when we get towards the ends here. But ultimately, once you know how to do the brim on the Addi, how to join it, and how to get your crocheting established, you can use this for any of your favorite patterns that have a crocheted brim, and you just prefer not to do a crocheted brim. You'd prefer to do a knit brim. I prefer to do a knit brim on pretty much all of my hats that require a brim and then have a crocheted top. It's so much faster to work up on my knitting machine than it is to do all of those short little rows of single crochet stitches. And then we're going to get all the way to the top here. So I will show you how to do the rest of the hat, but if you are here just for this brim, hopefully I have educated you on how to do that. Take that brim and keep going with whatever crochet pattern you desire. But I will show you how to finish the top of this hat here in just a minute. But that is how to do the brim of your double crochet hat. If you haven't already done it, please like this video and subscribe, and we will go ahead and finish our tutorial here, doing our row of double crochet, and then also repeating that back post double crochet until we have a total of 13 rows, including our initial row of single crochet stitches. And then I will meet you back at the end and show you how to start doing our decreases. All right, so I have done my total of 13 rows, including the first single crochet row that I used to bind off and attach the band here to our hat. And now we're going to start decreasing. I've already done my 3 single crochet and my turn in order to start this next row. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to just start slowly decreasing over the next few rows until we get to a very small hole, and we're able to sew that together and add our pom-pom. So to start, what we're going to do is we're going to do back post double crochets for the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do a decrease. Now, if you've not done a back post decrease before, it is fairly simple. You just go behind the first stitch with your yarn over. So yarn over, go behind the next back post, pull a loop up, go through the first 2 loops on your hook. And then you're going to yarn over again. And then you're going to go behind the next post, hook your yarn, pull it up, yarn over, and go through your next 2 loops. So at this point you should have the first half of 2 separate double crochet stitches and 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and that is your decrease. So do 4 more double crochet stitches, back post double crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then do your next back post double crochet decrease. So yarn over, go behind the post of the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, then yarn over again, go behind the next post of your double crochet stitch, hook your yarn and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And we're going to keep that pattern going. So do 4 double crochet stitches and then a decrease. And then I will meet you back around at the beginning of the round. So I'm here nearing the end of this next round, and we're just going to do our last back post double crochet right here. On these last 2 stitches here, it was a decrease, so this is our last back post double crochet. And this right here is our chain 3, so we're not going to do a back post double crochet on that. We are going to find that 3rd stitch, 3rd chain stitch I should say, and we are going to slip stitch to join into that stitch. Now chain your 3 and turn your work. And on this next round, you are going to be decreasing every 3 double crochet stitches. So yarn over and do 1, 2, remembering that this first chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So we have 3 double crochet here. So we are going to do our next decrease. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook, and then double crochet your next 3 stitches. And then do your next decrease. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And you're going to keep that pattern all the way around until we get to the end of our round, and then I will show you the next decrease row. So we're finishing the end of our round, so I'm going to do my next decrease. And then my next final double crochet stitch right here. And then I'm going to find my 3rd chain and slip stitch to join. Chain 3 and turn my work. Now we're going back to our back post double crochet, and I'm going to be doing a decrease every 2 stitches. So do your first back post double crochet as normal. Remembering that our chain 3 and our first stitch here count as 2 stitches. So my next stitch is going to be a decrease. Excuse me, there we go. And then I'm going to do 2 double crochet stitches. Back post double crochet stitches, 1, 2, and then a decrease back post double crochet. And I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around. But as you see here, my decrease, I have the first half of 1 stitch here, and then I have a decrease stitch right here that I'm trying to back post double crochet around. And the way that you do that is you just go around the entirety of the stitch. So yarn over, go over both of these posts that you see here on this stitch, all the way across. Poke your hook through, grab your yarn and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So you're treating that decrease as if it was a single stitch, which technically it is, but it does have 2 posts to it, but you're treating it as if it has a single post. I hope that makes sense. It should feel more natural when you're actually doing it, so don't be afraid of it. Do your next 2 back post double crochet stitches. And then you're going to hit another decrease on your next decrease stitch for your back post double crochet. So do the first half of your back post double crochet around that first double crochet, and then around the second one you're going to poke your hook through, go all the way over that decrease, hook your yarn, pull it up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3. So that's the pattern that you're going to be repeating all the way around the hat, and I will meet you back at the start. We're nearing the end of this round, so do your last couple of back post double crochet. I ended right on a decrease right here, so the last 2 stitches that you should do should be usual double crochet stitches, back post double crochet stitches. You're going to find that 3rd chain and slip stitch to join. chain 3, and turn. And if you haven't caught on the pattern by now, there is only going to be one double crochet stitch between each decrease on this round. Since our chain 3 counts as a double crochet, we are going to go straight into our first decrease. And since we are on a standard double crochet round, you just do your first half of your double crochet into that first stitch, and then into the next stitch, and finish it off. Do one double crochet and a decrease. So that's how you're going to go all the way around this round, just alternating between decreases and double crochets until we get to the end of the round, and I will meet you there. Alright, so we're right at the end of our next round. It just finished on a decrease. We have 2 more stitches to go into, and that means that you're not going to have room left over for a decrease, but don't worry about that because it all works out just fine. So double crochet into your last 2 stitches, and then find your third chain as we've been doing, and slip stitch to join. Turn your work. And now chain 3. And now we're going to go ahead and do a back post double crochet here, but every single stitch that we do is going to be a decrease on this round. So go ahead and go behind the first one, complete the first half, behind the second, complete the second half, and pull through all 3. Then do your next one, which is going to go around a decrease that is already there, but you know how to do that now. And then your next double crochet, just like that, and keep doing your decreases every single stitch all the way around, and I will meet you at the end. Nearing the end of the round here, I have done all my decreases and I am left with space to do just one more double crochet stitch here. So don't be anxious about that, just do your last back post double crochet. And then find your chain 3 here and slip stitch to join. And now we have a very small opening here at the top of our hat, and we're going to go ahead and tie this off and then just sew this closed the rest of the way. So yarn over and pull through to do a chain stitch. Leave yourself a good length of yarn for sewing in. Trim that off and pull that all the way through the stitch that you just created. Now, in order to close this hole the rest of the way, I'm going to thread my tail into a stitch marker. If you're curious about these stitch markers, they will be linked in the description if you are interested in finding some for yourself. Have my yarn needle here, putting the threader through and hooking the yarn on the threader just like that and pulling it right on through. And now it's very simple. We're just going to weave this behind and in front of each of these stitches all the way around the hat and just cinch it closed. So once you have that all woven through, just go ahead and pull on your tail. That'll cinch it closed nice and tight. I poke my thread back to the inside of the hat. Do a little French knot, as they call it in embroidery. to secure it down. My knot does not want to tighten. My yarn is a little stuck, which is okay because it's on the inside of the hat. No one's going to see it. And it is secure. It's not going to go anywhere. So I'm just going to trim this slightly, and then I will go back and weave in my end once we're done here. Now, if you want to attach a pom-pom, you can. If you want to leave it just like this, you have a lovely beanie with a nice knit brim here made on your Addi Knitting Machine. But if you would like to have a pom-pom added, I will also show you how to do that as well. Give me just 1 second. It seems like I lost my pom-pom. Hold on. Alright, so I have my pom-pom here. I got these off of Amazon. They will be linked in the description if you would like to get some for yourself. They are pretty cost effective and I have not had any issues with them at all. They have this little elastic loop here down at the bottom. And I will show you how to attach that using this pom-pom button here. So go ahead and take your crochet hook, go into the middle of your hat, and pop your hook right through that hole that you just cinched down. Right there. And then grab the elastic on your pom-pom and pull that through. And now on the inside of your hat, just pull up that elastic and give it a pinch and grab your pom-pom button. Poke your hook through one of the holes on your button. Grab your elastic and pull it through there. Pinch your elastic again. Poke your hook up through the underside of your button. Hook your elastic again. Pull it through that side of the button. Give it a good pull. Unhook your hook. And then now that your button and your pom-pom look just like this, with it coming up through this side and down through that side, you just take your elastic and loop it over the button like that. And your pom-pom is attached and is completely removable for washing, which is fantastic. And there you have it. That is your fully completed knit brim 1 hour beanie top with a pom-pom beanie. And I think that that looks just lovely. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. I will help you troubleshoot as best as I can. You can always attach a tag to anything that you create to give it that extra professional finish. Make sure you weave in your ends. I haven't done that here. I think you all know how to weave in ends. But that is your basic knit brim crochet top beanie. At least the one that I find the easiest and fastest to create. And I just absolutely love the look of. It's simple, uncomplicated, and it looks really, really nice. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you've not already. If you want to see more of my creations, be sure to check out yarnatplay.com. I will definitely link that down below so you can take a look. And in the meantime, I hope that this was helpful and that you really enjoy doing this combination. Save your time on your brim, knock out a bunch of hats, hopefully sell some, and have just a wonderful time making these creations. Even if they're just for friends and family, it is still a great way to go. All right, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, Yarny friends. I will see you all next time. Bye.